Hey, Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready when you are.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, November 25th, 2024. Time is 6:02 p.m. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Langbart.
Here.
Barber. Can you hear me, Jack? I don't know if that mic's working.
Now try. No? Okay. Where else is
Mics.
It's like we're having some technical difficulties here, Mr. Mayor. Give us a moment.
Okay. It must be him. That's like the third time now in a row we've had his mic fail.
Now try. It's on.
Nothing.
Testing.
Yep. There we go.
What's too long?
What am I doing wrong?
There we go.
Don't. I think you're too close to the mic there. Okay.
How about now?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. All right. Barbara is here. Rojas.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Mayor, but I'd also like to request, if we're not done in an hour and a half, I'm gonna have to step out, if that's okay. I think we have a quorum. If I am gone, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Kennedy.
Here.
Okay. Peyton is absent, and Keithley.
Here.
Okay. We have 5 out of 6 council members present, with Peyton being absent tonight. All right. Thank you, everyone. Heidi or Liz, if you could go ahead and lead us off in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item C, as we said, we have 1 excused absence. That is Peyton. Item D, agenda approval. We'll go and look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda by Rojas with a second by Langbart. Any further discussion on the agenda before we vote on the approval? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's agenda. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
The motion will be to approve the agenda.
That now talk. Yeah.
all right, Jack, you're an aye.
Aye.
Okay, Rojas, Kennedy,
Aye.
and Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and 1 vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight's consent agenda consists of item 1, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, October 28th, 2024. Those can be found on page 5. And actually that is it for the consent agenda. Does any member wish to remove any item at this time? Actually, let's back up. I'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Mayor Campbell.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda by Kennedy with a second by, was that Keith Lee or Langvart? Keith Lee with a second by Keith Lee. Any further discussion on tonight's consent agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber, okay, Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
and Keith Lee.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent, and that was the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All right, next item, item F, mayoral proclamations, none. Followed by item G, public presentation, prior notice. Tonight, looks like we have Willie Dunn in the audience, our Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly member for District 9. Welcome, Willie. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, City Council members. Really good to be here. My name is Willie Dunn. I represent District 9 on the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly, which is the southern Kenai Peninsula, basically anchor point to Port Graham, Nanwalek, excepting the city of Homer and Kachemak City. So Seldovia is part of my district, and happy to be here. I've met a number of you in the past. Good to see some of you. Good to meet some of you for the first time. Always love coming to Seldovia, and I'm new on the assembly again after sitting out 1 term. So happy to be back. And I just wanted to give a very brief update from the borough. Most of you realize that the city and the borough are 2 separate entities, but we do have some overlap. Borough services here include the school, Susan B. English School, the landfill just outside of town. We've got we've got borough roads just outside of town, but people inside and outside the city use those. And then we've got the Seldovia Recreation Service Area, SERSA, that operates the Sea Otter Community Center up by the school, which is a borough function in conjunction actually with help from the city. I just would like to say that at our meeting in October, we had a reorganization with elections and a few new members. Our president of the Borough Assembly now is Peter Ribbons from Nikiski, and Kelly Cooper from Homer, many of you know, is our Borough Assembly Vice President. We're going to be electing or appointing a new member shortly. Bill Elam was on the Borough Assembly for the past number of years, and he ran for the Alaska state legislature and was elected. So he'll be stepping down from his seat. We'll be appointing a new member there. But biggest event that we item that we approved at our last meeting in November was our capital improvement list. I know you have a similar process with approving capital improvement lists. We had chose a number of capital improvement projects that were lobbying for the state legislature, as well as some federal funding. The top ones that made our list this year are the Highway Corridor Communications Improvement Project between the Seward's Highway and the Sterling Highway. There's gaps in service. If you ever drive to Anchorage, you'll know that you have gaps in cell phone coverage around there, and we're trying to get some funding to help improve those communications along that highway corridor, which has it's not only an inconvenience, but it can be a safety issue, a large safety issue. We've also asked for some money to help improve some of the substandard borough roads that were adopted into our road maintenance system early on that are not up to borough standards. Hope to bring some of those up to borough standards. Excuse me, got a little tickle in my throat. Landfill upgrades. We operate Central Peninsula landfill as well as transfer stations, and of course, we contract here for the Rocky Ridge landfill. And then borough-wide emergency service area equipment and apparatus. And lastly, the South Peninsula Hospital capital projects. The hospital's in pretty dire need of some capital infusion to keep up with the growth there. And we've asked the state and or the federal government to help us with about $10 million of capital improvements at the hospital. And then also we've appointed a group to look at the tourism industry. And this is in response to some conversations that have happened with bed tax proposals in the past, where the borough, every few years, it seems like assembly members start discussing whether or not we should institute a borough-wide bed tax. But we're going to have this tourism industry work group kind of look at the positive and negative impacts of tourism and suggest ways that tourists can pay their share of helping support infrastructure they use. They use borough roads, they use borough solid waste disposal, and of course they use borough emergency service areas. So this working group will be discussing some of those impacts and how to equitably distribute the cost of those services among tourists. So anyway, that's just a really brief update, and I'm certainly happy to answer questions, and I'm always open. And Mayor Campbell knows this, and the staff knows this. I'm always open to phone calls or emails or text messages. So if you ever have questions about how the city can interact with the borough, feel free to contact me. And also happy to answer questions here this evening too.
Great, Willie. Thank you for coming in tonight. We appreciate you coming over, and obviously good to have you back on the assembly. Yeah, I know you're a great resource for folks to reach out to. So we'll go ahead and open it up to council. If anyone's got any questions for Willie tonight.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, welcome back, Willie. It's good to see you back with the Borough Assembly. I really appreciate your energy you put forth. Is there anything in that's coming up with the borough that the city of Seldovia should be aware of or keeping their ears open to what's going on within the borough that would affect the city of Seldovia that you're aware of?
You know, I had some conversations with the city manager today and staff, and that they asked the same question. And I can't think of anything right off the top of my head as far as you know, the general mill rate taxes that of course city residents pay into that also. We don't expect to have much of a change. If anything, we're hoping to reduce the mill rate slightly. Our borough sales tax is no interest in changing that right now, so that'll stay at 3%. Funding of schools is always an issue. So as far as you know, Susan B. English School, that's a borough-wide issue and a statewide issue as far as school funding. And I did get a chance to talk with some school staff administration today, and had some really good conversations. And I know there's been some struggles there, but hopefully we can keep things moving forward and do whatever we can as a borough to support your school here. But the other big thing that I know, I was not on the assembly when this happened, but I know that you lost your representation on the planning commission, the borough planning commission, and that was a difficult pill to swallow for Seldovia residents. And I had some interesting ideas we threw about with the city manager as far as how we can increase communications with planning and incorporate the city into the planning processes. So, but nothing big on the horizon that I can foresee right now.
Okay, thank you, Willie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Anyone else with additional questions for Willie tonight?
I would like to hold some of my questions till later.
Okay. All right, Willie, thank you. Appreciate you coming in tonight. Yeah, we look forward to getting you back to work there at the borough level, and I'm sure we'll have many more conversations here going forward in the future once you get your feet wet. All right, that concludes item G. Item H, public presentations for items not on the agenda. Did we have anyone signed up tonight, Liz?
No, we do not have anyone signed up tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item I, committee and advisory board reports. And I don't see that we've got anybody signed up on that as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have none tonight.
Okay. Item J, administrative reports. We've got the monthly finance report will be the first one. That's going to be found on page 8 of your packet. Looks like most items for where we're at about halfway through the year here, everything's seems to be tracking. Heidi, I didn't see anything on. I know Jan's not on here tonight. I didn't see anything that was no big red flags. Jan didn't mention anything to you for the monthly.
We are both keeping an eye on water fund due to the recent issues that we've had at the treatment plant. We did have to purchase additional parts, and we've had a lot of additional employee time at that water treatment plant. So it is a little high right now for expenses, and we can utilize either some of the ARPA that is left. We have about 7,000 in ARPA that was intended to be used as I'm sorry, I'm blanking my words right now. What am I trying to say?
Are we thinking revenue replacement, or what are we thinking?
Sorry, yes, revenue replacement. So there's about 7,000 that was intended to be used as revenue replacement that we can put towards water, as well as there is a major maintenance and repair fund that we can appropriate additional funds. We'll already need to appropriate for the probe and some of the parts that were purchased. So we're keeping an eye on it, and you'll probably see an ordinance with some appropriation requests coming through here in January. But other than that, things are kind of standard. Doc, you'll see, is in the red, but it's because we bill quarterly and we haven't received that. In fact, a lot of these, she makes a note that they do include November expenses, but not November revenues. And as they continue to catch up through the year and cover that insurance payment, it'll switch and they'll be in the black.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the insight on that. Any questions from anyone on council on the finance report? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item J2, the Harbor monthly written report. That's going to be found on page 12. Layla gives us just a quick overview on everything that's been going on. Pretty straightforward. Looks like everything's all pretty well winterized. Few interesting little things in there. It's got some security stuff for the some of the cameras. We got some new parts on the way for the slips for the dock pins. Other than that, it looks like everything's fairly quiet at the moment on the harbor front. Any questions from anyone on council on the harbor report? Okay, last one, item J3, Public Works Maintenance Report. That's going to be found on page 15. And this one comes from Amanda and Johnny. Heidi, do we have all the water leaks fixed now, or where are we standing on that?
Well, there's still one in Anderson that we have not had a chance to get to. They've been so busy with projects over the last 2 months and the greater training that I think they're still hoping to be able to get to it this fall. But if not, if it gets too frozen, it'll be spring.
Okay.
Plus, just throwing out there that raw water transmission line is still slowly leaking.
Okay. Yep, that's not good. We need to get that replaced. Okay, any questions from council on the Public Works Maintenance Report?
I got one question regarding the last comment. I hadn't heard of that. Where's the leak and
Yeah, so in that lower 1,050 feet, we keep talking about this thin walled steel. We had a leak occur, early summer, late
how
spring.
did I miss that?
I'm not sure because we've talked about it at a few meetings, but there was a leak. They were able to put a Band-Aid on it. So they opened up the ground, put a clamp on it. It's tightened it down pretty well, but it's still, there continues to be a small leak
So it's
coming
still
out of
leaking
it.
at that same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is one of the projects that we have upcoming with the EPA,
Right.
and that we're just waiting to receive that funding so we can replace that whole section. But it's good for us to keep track of that. This is definitely an ongoing issue.
So there's no vehicle traffic over that line where it's.
No, it's up
Okay.
towards the reservoir.
Anyone else with any questions? Okay, all right. That will conclude the administrative reports for tonight. And we will go ahead and move on to item K, public hearings. Item K1, ordinance 25-04, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, amending Seldovia Municipal Code 11.05.160, damage to right-of-way. And this will be with the city manager, and it'll be found on page 16 of your packet.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you can see this is a pretty simple fix. In fact, it could have maybe even just been an administrative a fix, but because we are changing the language from borough to city in this section of code here, I think it just was probably copied over from the borough, and that was missed however many years ago this was done. So it's a simple change from the word borough to city and section 11.05.160, damage to right of way.
Okay, was there any incidents that caused this to come up, or was this just caught in code review?
This was caught during our speed hump discussion when we were looking at language for damage to the right of ways and encroachment permits. We caught this in that review.
Gotcha. Okay. So no, pretty much general housekeeping then. All right, fantastic. We'll go ahead and take it over to council. Any comments, questions from council on ordinance 25-04? Okay, hearing none. Anyone from the public that wishes to weigh in on ordinance 25-04?
We have no one signed up, no one in the room, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action on ordinance 25-04, and I'll look for a motion to approve ordinance 25-04.
Mayor Campbell,
Yep, go ahead, John.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2504. An ordinance of the city council, the city of Seldovia, amending Seldovia Municipal Code 11.05.160, damage to the right of way.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion by Kennedy to approve ordinance 25-04 with a second by Rojas. Any further discussion on the motion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 25-04. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber, Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent. And that was the approval of ordinance 25-04. Next item for business tonight is item K2, ordinance 25-05, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia adopting Seldovia Municipal Code, Chapter 10.05, speed restrictions. City Manager will take this one away, and this will be found on page 17 of your packet.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this also came up during discussions about speed humps and traffic calming regulation or traffic calming recommendations and regulations within the city, and that it had always kind of just been perceived that city limits, speed limits within city limits were 25 miles per hour. However, if you see state of Alaska has the following maximum lawful speeds, and there's a little memo about that on page 19. 15 miles per hour in an alley, 20 miles per hour in a business district, 25 miles per hour in residential district, and 55 miles per hour on any other roadway. We did have a few discussions about this, and you'll also see examples in here from DOT, Anchorage, and I believe that's the Kenai Peninsula Borough. So with that, ordinance was introduced to add language regarding speed restrictions to the code. And that includes a section on speed to be safe and appropriate for existing conditions. And then the next section, 10.05.020, maximum limits designated. And that after those discussions was 15 miles per hour in an alley or public parking lot. And number 2, not more than 20 miles per hour on residential streets or as determined by the city of Seldovia.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for discussion. We'll go ahead and open it up for any questions, comments on ordinance 25-05.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I'm in favor of ordinance 25-05. It reflects what the council, our discussion of our last meeting, so I'm in favor of it. It addresses our questions and concerns we had about speed limits around town. So thank you very much for the staff putting this together. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Anyone else on 25-05?
One quick one, that would set it at 20 miles an hour, correct?
20 miles an hour for residential streets. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's notwithstanding Main Street, because that's as we discussed, that's a state road.
Right, no, I'm good with it, thank you.
So the big difference is between us, the state, and I think it was either the borough or the muni, is most of those are 25 in a residential. We're holding ours at 20 for residential.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, we did reach out to the state per the council's request to request that the business district on Main Street also be reduced to 20 miles per hour. And I'm still waiting to hear back from them on that. That was DOT.
Okay. Sounds good. Anyone else with any questions, comments on 2505?
City streets. I think 20 mile an hour might be a little faster on Main Street and even on Catchmack Drive. So that there's during the peak season of tourism and that, I mean, 15 mile an hour would probably be about as fast as you'd want to be driving on Main Street. But 20 and 25 is, if you go out and drive it at 25 mile an hour, that's pretty fast with as much traffic and pedestrian traffic as we have in town at certain peak seasons. So you might want to rethink about how fast you want to let, because some roads like Catchmack Drive, it's a 1 lane and 15-20 mile an hour on something like that. It should be 5 mile an hour because you got a lot of pedestrian traffic walking in. So I think the speeds are higher than what they need to be in town.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Questions, comments on 2505? Okay, I'll just make one comment too. Yeah, no, one thing I can say is that if folks are driving, and we've talked about this before, if you're driving on Main Street and you actually are driving 25 miles an hour and you look down at your speedometer and you know you're going 25 and you look up, you probably feel that you're going too fast on Main Street. It's pretty amazing. It sounds slow on paper, but when you're actually going, and then if you're, going around the corner and you start getting up by the bridge and stuff, and if you're still going 25, you are going fast at that point. So, I think, there's definitely merit to, these residential areas going pretty slow. Certainly the one lane areas, I think most of us tend to drive way slower. I think you're absolutely right. Barely above idle, maybe 10, tops 15 in some of those areas. But yeah, we're probably realistically with the potholes in the 1 lane going anywhere from 10 to 15 miles an hour, just, by habit, just because we know that's fast enough. So, I think this is a good step though. We haven't had any kind of, big speed studies or anything like that. I'm hopeful that the state will come back and, maybe agree to the 20 mile an hour change on Main Street. So I would definitely like to see that. I think, at this point, this is a good step. We keep things, we keep an eye on it here, and just go from there. So,
Mayor Campbell.
Yep, go ahead, John.
I didn't say anything in my former remarks because of the sentence, sentence number 2. It says not more than 20 miles per hour on residential streets or determined by the city of Seldovia. And I think the council was, pretty adamant about some of these side streets and narrow streets, some of the stuff that's one way. I was kind of feeling that 15 would be more appropriate for some of those. And I'm in hopes that that the city can utilize the last part of that sentence as determined by the city of Seldovia. In other words, a couple of those streets, maybe we could get them marked a little bit lower right off the start here. That's why I didn't say anything.
Yeah, John, so you bring up a good question here, Heidi. So with the language on that, or as determined by the city of Seldovia, in other words, if the council or would it take council action, or could the manager say, let's take Shoreline, for example. Isn't Shoreline posted at 15 right now? What is Shoreline posted at?
Right now, the city streets are considered 25 miles per hour. So I believe it would take action of the city council to determine that you would want that to be lower. you wanted that to be 15 or what you wanted it to be. And, but if that's the will of the body, then we can post that at lower.
Gotcha. Okay. And right now around, I'm trying to just think around, just can anyone think of how many speed limit signs are other than on the state road? How many speed limit signs are scattered? Do we have any speed limit signs scattered around anywhere on our residential streets that anyone knows of?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Mayor, so this could be a good exercise to have a study done and then maybe a work session in the future to discuss determining if there's areas that should be lower than 20 miles per hour.
Okay.
Unless there's ones you guys have off the top of your head.
Well, this is what I think we should do. Instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, if we approve this, then everything goes from 25 to 20, just in code. And then I think this is something that we should probably look at again in the near, there's nothing that would prohibit us from amending this in the near future, correct?
Correct.
Okay, what I think we do then is people bring back specifics on certain streets and the reasoning why. Yeah, I just wouldn't, I don't think I'd want to do a blanket, but I darn well know Shoreline, Catchmack, there's a number of streets that are just way too narrow and slow going that I think 10 or 15 makes perfectly good sense. So, that would be, or we can postpone this and, hold off on enacting it too and get, go through the motions and list certain areas of town or certain streets out individually. That's up to council. So I'd be curious if you guys have any other comments or feedback on that.
Mayor Campbell, I'm okay with moving on.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
I would make a suggestion because the roads that keep being mentioned are the same roads that are listed under vehicles and traffic. Let me find the right section here. Where parking is prohibited because the streets are too narrow. So if we in code section 10.18.020, city streets parking prohibited. No vehicle shall be stopped, left standing, or parked for more than 2 hours in any portion of the following streets. And it lists Inlet Street, Service Lane, Garden Street, Lipke Lane, Cedar Street, Willow Street, Catchmack Street, Linstead Lane, southeasterly side of Alder Street between Catchmack Street and Cedar Street, and English Drive. And I think that one's because of the hill, not because of the narrowness. So one thing to consider if you did want to postpone is we could include that under 15 miles per hour in alleyways and narrow streets as listed and list those same ones. Or if you want to pass it tonight and then we want to have more of a discussion on it in the future, we do already have that list kind of marking the roads that have safety issues because they're so narrow.
So we could clean it up by in the next month or so then.
Yeah, we could include that. And if you guys wanted to postpone it tonight and then have an amendment to the ordinance.
It's your call, Mayor.
Yeah, no, that probably makes sense. Then, instead of going through the rigmarole twice here, probably makes sense just to postpone it. Let's get some of the language cleaned up. Let's get some specific, it's been code this long, another month's not gonna hurt us here. So we might as well just do this right and do it one time. I'd much more be in favor of that.
Vivian, do you have a comment on that?
No, I think that sounds like a good idea. I'm in favor of that, postponing and working on it later.
Do you guys want that to be 15 miles per hour for those streets?
Yeah.
I would say that would be a good choice.
Yeah, I think 15 makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yep, go ahead.
I think that makes sense as well. That's a good idea.
Okay. And Heidi, was Shoreline one of those?
Catchback Street is, but Shoreline, Catchback Street is, but Shoreline is not. So I can look at that street again.
Okay.
I'll do is I'll bring you guys back a table with the streets and how wide they are. And then we can do a quick exercise going through it and making sure those are the ones you guys want to include.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah, I think that would be more thorough and just a better piece of legislation when we're all said and done here. Any objections from anyone on council to that? Okay, let's real quick before we entertain a motion. Let's see, is there anyone from the public list that was signed up or cares to comment on ordinance 25-05?
No, we do not have anyone signed up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Let's see, Heidi, would next meeting be enough time or?
That should be fine, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I need more time, but I think I can manage that once the CDBG is out.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Cause we're gonna, the next meeting's not going to be till when let's see, the 16th.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good then. All right. Let's go ahead and look for a motion to postpone this till the December 16th meeting.
I'll make a motion to postpone this to the December 16th meeting.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Langbart to postpone the discussion on ordinance 25-05 until the December 16th meeting, so that the city manager can bring back some additional information with specific streets that we want to reduce to 15 miles an hour. We have a second by Keith Lee. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to postpone ordinance 25-05. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Keith Lee.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative, 1 absent, and ordinance 25-05 will be postponed until the December 16th meeting. Okay, thank you. Item L, unfinished business, none. Item M, new business, resolution 25-19, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, adopting the annual update of the capital improvement plan for the 2025-2030 6-year cycle and establishing state and federal capital project legislative priorities for fiscal year 2026. City manager will take this one and it'll be found on page 26 of your packet.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as previously discussed in multiple work sessions, we have the draft CIP. It does include changes from the last work session, which included that the energy improvements project, and if you look at page 29, you'll see that table of contents. The energy improvement projects for the fuel retail and distribution facilities was split into 3 phases, one for the roof, the second for the other structural repairs and electricity needed, and the third for that optional improvement of the second sewer service. Rural professional housing development was updated to be a planning project. So just for the planning and feasibility study of rural professional housing development from the city of Seldovia. Stormwater management plan and drainage next phase was updated with the recent grant applications that were submitted. So that information is in there. And then I'd like to point out 2 additional items, the Seldovia Volunteer Fire and EMS Emergency Radio Upgrade. This is something that the Seldovia Volunteer Fire Department is currently working on an application for, and it's been useful to have that project included in this document. So we're excited to see that. And then on future considerations, page 79, there have been some additional future considerations that were added in per our recent community change grant application, and just some things that we've discussed so we don't lose track of. I'm going to that page 79 real quick. I wanted to show you that format change just a little bit. by adding stars next to projects that, even though they're under future considerations, they are projects that do have ongoing progress or focus because they're included in other project plans or they're being tracked due to recent discussions and collaborations. And you can see there are several of them in this document, which really just goes to show how much work is going on in the city at any given point in time. And some of those new ones, we changed the format to add public facilities at the beginning. Habitat protection and restoration, Fish Creek Dam removal and restoration project is included. That's not something we've really had a discussion at a council level, but it's something that keeps coming up in discussion between NOAA. We have Paul Zico out at the Kissitna Bay Lab, and in discussion with him and with the the Ketchimak National Estuarine Research Reserve, Kebner, and SVT about some funding opportunities they have and what kind of projects we have in our area. They're looking at protection, restoration, and conservation projects. So this is one that's been mentioned that potentially if the dam could be removed and we could still implement some kind of way to filter and utilize that source as a secondary water source. It might be able to meet everybody's needs, and then we wouldn't have that infrastructure to maintain. So it's in there just as an option to look to in the future. That's something that Paul is doing some research on for us right now, and of course that Seldovia Village Tribe is interested in. So included that under quality of life and economic development. I included an emergency cash food storage program. This was brought up by the Seldovia Chamber of Commerce during our community change grant and was incorporated in that grant. And I think it's actually kind of a really unique, neat program that they are doing in Oregon along the coast, that they are purchasing or allowing families to purchase 55-gallon drums, 35-gallon buckets, and 5-gallon buckets. And then they have a place, they store those buckets for people out of their inundation zones. And people have access to them once or twice a year, that they can get into their own individual bucket, update it with any supplies that they want to, change it out. There's a few restrictions on things that can't be supplied in it. But if there comes a time where we have a nice storage area outside of the inundation zone, it would offer a chance potentially for people to be able to store their own supplies in case of an emergency. So I would love feedback on that. The other thing that was incorporated was a food storage and preservation program, which was a dedicated space in the value added building with the purchase of equipment to promote local food storage and preservation. And then along the same lines as the habitat protection and restoration for Fish Creek Dam is evaluate and assess potential habitat and protection and conservation projects. Right now, Kebner is helping write grant applications so that City of Homer's gone through this recently, where they were able to purchase and are looking at other areas to purchase land that they would conserve that are located in their watershed. Some of those ideas of potential areas of impact would be Trina Lake, Susan Lake, Inside Beach, the wetlands near Anderson and Young Street, and behind Fish Creek Dam or near Schooner Beach, as just ideas of things that we could evaluate moving forward. And then also evaluate and assess habitat protection and restoration projects. And one thing that was mentioned was potentially the old landfill on Jackloff Bay Road. So that's a piece that the city of Seldovia owns that we haven't been able to utilize for anything because it was an old landfill, and I don't know what the feasibility of that is, but throwing it in there so that we can keep an eye on it and see if there's some potential there moving forward. Some of these other items are already in there, but I just wanted to star them that, like the water treatment plant road, ditching, draining, and grading. We are working on ditching and draining and grading all of the roads within the city. The evaluation of erosion of the section of road between Bay Street and Peninsula Street would be included in the historic boardwalk project. Under marine transportation, water and electricity upgrades in the Seldovia Small Boat Harbor, that was already in there as well, but that's something that we've been working on with some of that port fee revenue that's come in, and the harbor master would like to continue working on next summer. Also underwater is the recap, the roof of the water storage tank, which we talked about at a previous work session, might be something that needs to happen sooner than later. So that's ongoing discussion that we're having, and that ARWA is involved with helping to provide a budget for that. And developing a secondary source for drinking water. It's included in our 2003 feasibility plan. It goes back to this habitat protection and restoration project for Fish Creek Dam removal. So that would tie into that. And like I said, we're having discussion to see if that has any feasibility. And then disposal of sludge effluent in the Seldovia septic tank. And that's something that's ongoing and in discussion. And lastly, Councilmember Keithley had mentioned that we do continue to partner with Seldovia Recreational Arts Council on projects, and another one that's kind of in the works, but hasn't been fully addressed in this plan, is the shrink wrapping of HEA power boxes. So just wanted to point out that those were called out a little bit more formally in the plan, and that there was the additional habitat protection and restoration or conservation projects included, as well as the two programs, the emergency cash food storage program and the food storage preservation program, are new. And then with that, if we go back to page, hard to read this number, 26, I believe it is the resolution that would formally adopt the CIP, as well as call out the state and the FY26 state and federal legislative requests. As previously discussed by council, they were identified as the Jackloff Bay Dock Replacement Project. That'd be a funding match for what is a potential overage and cost for that project of $454,273. Block Street main replacements on there with an updated cost estimate I received from CRW in the last month. Energy improvements, fuel retail and distribution facilities is on there as a funding match. I do want to call this one out specifically because the CDBG is due next week, and there have been some struggles in getting this application completed. For one, it took a long time to receive word back from the Division of Community what is that acronym? Regional Affairs. Yes, we will need to do a new limited income survey. So we're going to start making phone calls in the next couple of days and try to get that buttoned up, as well as we've been waiting to hear back from the fire marshal's office, a letter of approval for the plan. So if we can get those things buttoned up, we can proceed with that CDBG, but it needs to go out next Tuesday at the latest to get into Fairbanks by Friday at the latest, or it will miss the deadline. And so this energy improvements includes the phase 2 plus the 25% match, and that came at $701,070. Equipment skid steer with a forklift and brush hog. That was a new quote from NC Machinery, and with all the attachments. And then the planning project for the Seldovia Small Boat Harbor improvements at $50,000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Yep, that was a mouthful for sure. As you guys know, this this document has turned out to be quite a monster over the last couple of years of putting it together. It's basically our roadmap from where we're at, where we're going, where we've been, all the above. So This was something that we desperately needed, and now we use it all the time, and it's a working document, so it's constantly changing, and it's always open for discussion. Right now, tonight's obviously this is a culmination of multiple iterations going back and forth with the staff cleaning up, trying to get the budgets as tight as they can, getting the details as tight as they can, et cetera. And then, of course, tonight we've, with the council's input, we've got our, 5 legislative priorities on here. And again, those can also change from year to year, as you guys well know. So yeah, it's a great document. Heidi, Liz, and staff, thanks for your guys' energy and what you do, and it's a lot. That just this document alone is a monster. So I know a lot of your time and
Ashley Keithley's in
goes
here.
into this. What's that, Meg?
Sorry, no, nothing.
Okay. But all right, sounds good. So yeah, I'll go ahead and open it up to council for any additional comments, questions on resolution 25-19.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our roadmap. Resolution 25-19 is a roadmap that Seldovia needs to proceed forward. Very pleased with what we've put together and all the work the staff has done for us. So I'm in favor of the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Anyone else on council? Okay, we're going to open it up to the public. Anyone from the public, either online that or in person, that wishes to weigh in tonight, Liz?
Page.
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't have anybody who signed up prior. Nobody in the room.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll go ahead and bring it back to the council tonight for final action on resolution 25-19.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 25-19.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve resolution 25-19 with a second by Langbart. Any further discussion on resolution 25-19 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of resolution 25-19. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber, Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent, and that is the approval of resolution 25-19, which is our legislative priorities for fiscal year 2026 as they relate to our CIP plan. All right, let's see, a couple more items tonight. Item M2, resolution 25-20, resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, authorizing participation in the 2024 Community Development Block Grant. And this will be also discussed with the city manager and found on page 110 of the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as I mentioned in the previous topic, that this has been an uphill battle, and we're still hoping to pull it off by next Monday. But we will see, because the deadline is getting tight. We're waiting to hear back from the fire marshal's office about approval for the development plan of the renovation of that building by replacing the roof. I've had some back and forth discussion with them today and Friday and Thursday. So we'll keep that going. As well as we just received late last week that we will have to do a new LMI survey which is a pretty heavy lift. We need to survey 80 households within the community what their income level is. We'll put a Facebook post out tomorrow and then start making phone calls and hope we get a positive response from people regarding that. If we can get that all said and done by Monday or Tuesday at the latest, we'll get this in the mail and get it out to where it needs to go in Fairbanks by that Friday. So with that in mind, this is for the energy improvements, fuel, retail, and distribution facility. Those costs did go up a little bit because in discussion with myself and a local contractor, and the mayor was able to attend for that discussion as well. It has been recommended that we implement additional purlins in the building. Right now, we have a 20-foot span between purlins, and industry standard is smaller than that. So recommended to go to a 4-foot. That would really mean that and you can see, if I didn't point out that the memo is in the laydown, you'll see that 25% match for the project of overall project of $322,076. 25% match for the city would be $80,519, which is just over what our community assistance program funding was. I know the council had a desire to only utilize half of that. So it's about 2501 over that FY25 cap funding for FY25. I'm sorry, I repeated myself there. A portion of this match can be also can be labor, storage, materials, and equipment rentals. I leave it there to council to see if this is still something that you want to pursue. And if so, we will work our hardest to try to get that in early next week.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. So real quick right now, the way it stands on the amount, or let me see here. Sorry, I got to go back to the resolution here. Okay, so we are requesting, so we've modified, it's based on applicant grant. So we are looking for the 241 number, 241,000, which is the phase one. If you go to page 113, that is the phase one that we discussed, which is basically the necessities that need to be done for that building, which includes demo of the siding and roof, the new purlins, the new roofing. That's pretty much it. It's a new roof. None of the other wish list stuff, which was upgrading the building electric, windows, replacing the bay door, installing a second sewer service, the siding, all of that. So it's toned down from the 900,000 substantially down to the 241 now. So I just wanted to, you probably said that, Heidi, but I just wanted to make that clear for everyone's in their mind, so they know what they're voting on here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may, that project cost, it's the same ending figures, but it has been updated in the laydown on page 27 to account for engineering. And according to the CDBG program, only 5% of administration costs can be included in the project. So did a little finagling with numbers to keep that same bottom line, but including the engineering, and then redistributing that administration cost down to 5% as determined by the program.
Okay, sounds good. And you guys all remember that, so we've had the temporary repairs in the past, and which have, we got rid of all the skylights, put new roof panels in there, but we still have a number of leaks in the building. There is no insulation in the back half of that building, no roof insulation, no wall insulation, nothing. And it is quite amazing when you do look at that building, how long it's been there. The spans on the existing structure are pretty far apart on the the existing. It doesn't really have a purlin structure, beam and purlin structure like the newer building. It's got a beam and then a couple of random joists with a pretty wide span in there. And was the span actually 20, Heidi, or was it 10?
I believe it was 20, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah, which is a pretty amazing distance for the roof panels themselves to span. So obviously it's fairly skookum, but as we well know, that building is the roof is at the end of its service life. So it's pretty much incumbent upon the city to start looking for a funding source to get that get those repairs made. So I definitely am in favor of this, and I think this is a little better approach, just going for right now, going for what we need to get accomplished, you know, rather than all of it. So yeah, it'd be great if they could, you know, I know they try to make that money go a long way on the CBDG. So hopefully we'll get selected on this. But we'll go ahead and open it up to council for any other comments, questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I think this resolution and submitting this application for the funds are vitally important to Seldovia. So I fully support resolution 25-20. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Anyone else? Okay, Liz, anyone from the public wishes to weigh in on resolution 25-20?
Oh, we have no one signed up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and bring resolution 25-20 back in front of council for final action, and we'll look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-20.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by member Rojas to approve resolution 25-20 with a second by member Keithley. Any further discussion on resolution 25-20 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of resolution 25-20. All those in favor, Langbart?
Aye.
Barber? Okay. Rojas?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
And Keithley?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent. And that was resolution 25-20, which is the approval of our 2024 CDBG grant program. Heidi, good luck. Hopefully you got, 80 is a big number to on the survey. So hopefully you guys can come up with that. Obviously, I know you're going to do your best, and we'll see where the cards fall here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I think we have one final action. Let's see, one final item tonight for action under new business. That's going to be item M3. And this is the Jackaloff Uplands lease application with reduced footprint. And Heidi, I'll go ahead and let you take that away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had a previous discussion about this topic in September at the September 23rd meeting about the fact that the KDB Mill site, or the leases for the Jackaloff Uplands, had agreed to reduce their footprint in their lease application, and then eventually their application to purchase, opening the door for the city of Seldovia's lease application for the portion of that parcel that relates directly to parking and to the city's tidelands. We did receive that renewal decision from DNR, and that in your laydown regarding that site. It did reduce the footprint down to 2.71 acres of land for 10 years. And if you look at the back of this plan, there is a site development plan under attachment A and a location on page 12. And it's hopefully you can see what they're calling out. It looks like it's kind of hard to read, but if you see, it's that bottom left triangle, and then the top left portion of the parcel that's 40 feet on the other side of the easement would be the portion that the leasee would renew, and then that 40 feet on the left side of the easement down through the beach would be available to the city of Seldovia to release. DNR has requested that the city of Seldovia amend their existing lease application and for that reduced footprint, that reduced acreage. So I did the math earlier. I actually wrote a really nice memo and it disappeared, but the consideration for the council tonight is to amend that lease application for ADL 234086 Jackoff Bay Uplands with this reduced footprint. And then that'll allow us to go into negotiations and consideration with DNR. In the discussion on the 23rd, council directed the city manager, directed me to negotiate with DNR regarding the survey. The request from the leasee to have the city of Seldovia cover the entirety of the survey, as well as the cleanup of the area. And speaking with DNR since, they did let us know that survey costs are per individual or per entity per section of the parcel that you would want to lease. So the leasee would be responsible, and it looks like according to the renewal, they don't have to do a survey for their 10-year renewal, but they will have to do an appraisal, and they'll have to do that every 5 years. And then the city of Seldovia, should we enter into a lease with DNR, would be responsible for the survey and the appraisal for the portion of the parcel that the city wants to lease. Additionally, with the request to split up cleanup costs, we were notified that the reduction of footprint was a way for the current leasee to absolve themselves of responsibility from cleanup. And you can see on the DNR site, if you look at information surrounding this lease, there is a long-standing history of misuse with all parties, including the Alaska DOT. So in speaking with DNR about how we can move forward, what that means if the city of Seldovia, for whatever reason, didn't take it on, they didn't have an answer for what they would do or follow through if this parcel was not leased by the city. But it was agreed that DOT should be brought into this discussion. So I have since spoken with Tyler Tucker, our local maintenance, state maintenance guy, and with Jocelyn Balloon, the local area planner, as well as I happened to have a phone call with Representative Vance, Chief of Staff last week. And I mentioned it to him as well, just to put it on Representative Vance's radar. In speaking with the area planner, she did respond back and said, because it not only included this, it included speed limits and the bike path and a few other initiatives. She said they were all positive initiatives, but there were various paths that she would need to go through her leadership, management, and different departments to check off and give a response. So she said it would take a couple of weeks. I haven't heard back yet. I did ping her again at the end of last week, and I will again if I don't hear from her here soon. But it sounds like there's a potential path to be able to move forward with DOT on that cleanup, and I'll let you guys know what we hear back. But for now, if the council so desires, we could amend the lease application for the reduced footprint, move forward with negotiation with DNR, see what that process looks like. The city of Seldovia would not enter into a lease without approval from the council, so that'll come in the form of a resolution, and you guys would be updated as we move through this process. So here for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. Appreciate it. As you guys know, this has been We started this a couple years ago with the back and forth on this, and it's been fairly contentious with the current lessees and the DNR also. So, and the city of Seldovia has not been 100% in agreement with the way this has gone down. But the bottom line is, with the new dock coming in, that's literally going to benefit the entire area. And everyone in Kachemak Bay that uses the boat to access Seldovia and all the existing area out the road, etc. We really need some good uplands to facilitate parking. They need to be clean, etc. We've already gone down this road. We know what we need. There's an avenue to get it. Basically, the only thing is the liability of the cleanup. Yeah, we've all agreed it's not fair. And yeah, it's not fair that the city gets stuck with that. I'm definitely in favor of continuing to negotiate with DNR. DOT should, bear some responsibility. And yeah, I definitely don't agree with still some of the findings of DNR. I think the approach they took is not good. It's not in the best interest of the public, and I don't think it serves their process well at all, based on their written responses to the questions that we asked. So, but that's government, and that's what we get sometimes. So, so moving forward, trying to figure this out, I think, from our previous discussions, yeah, I want to see us move forward. Obviously, I don't want to commit to a signed lease until we know we have a path forward on the cleanup. And as I said before, we're not looking for anything for free here. We just don't want to get stuck with a $300,000 bill or something. If it's to be, we know there's probably been a number of, small spills from vehicles over the years. We know there's been a couple fires. There's been a multitude of things environmentally that have happened out there. There's been multiple vessels that have been pulled up on that beach that have sunk. So yeah, it would, we need to do our due diligence on this and make sure that, all parties are involved. And at some point, it's probably going to be actually having an environmental survey. There's going to be some money spent to have a remediation company come out, take some samples, and see what we've got. If there is any, if there's any oil or petroleum or whatever the case may be. I don't imagine it would be much more than that, but yeah, hopefully it's all surface stuff that can be cleaned up relatively inexpensive, especially, if there's multiple entities involved. But so yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'm hopeful that we'll continue to keep forward, figure out an avenue to obtain the piece that we need, and everybody lives happily thereafter. So that's my 2 cents. I'll open it up for you guys for additional comments, questions on the Jackaloff Uplands lease.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, we've been going through this a long time. I'm in favor of moving forward towards the lease, the amended lease, and then looking at it from there. As you said, Mayor, I'm not in favor of the city of Seldovia residents being charged to take care of an environmental disaster if that comes to fruition. So I think we have a lot of stuff to look into. But for right now, moving forward with the lease, that would work with the new dock and be a benefit to Seldovia. But we need to be very cautious, and hopefully DNR and the other entities will actually be able to work with and make sense with what they've done and what they're doing in the future. But I am in favor of moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Appreciate that. Anyone else on council?
Just
Yep. Go ahead, Jack.
Something I'd like to know, and I talked with Heidi, all these environmental issues is an unknown. is there any state property in the close proximity that may be up for lease that we could start off with a fresh lease and not have to take on some of the burdens that the Jackalope Bay facility has there? And I haven't got an answer on that, but there may be property, you know, up the bay that would lend itself to putting in a new dock system and not have to be burdened with cleanups and environmental issues and that.
Yeah, no, understood on that. My only, yeah, and in a perfect world, that would make sense if we had options. Unfortunately, with the quick wheels of government and how fast we get things done, we're probably looking at another 7 to 10 years if we were to hit the restart button on trying to find a place for a new boat, new harbor and a dock, etc. The only reason this was, fast tracked on the environmental study was because of the existing facility that's already there, in terms of our EIS and everything else that we're going through right now. And this is the fast track at 2.5 years with existing infrastructure. So I can only imagine how long it would take if we had to start from scratch. But yeah, no, I get it. It would be simple if we had options and we could do that and things were fast. But this new dock is coming. The funding is there. We're already down a pretty good path on design. And yeah, I want to see that thing get installed in our lifetime here so that folks can start using that. So that's yeah, so hopefully we can negotiate this out, and hopefully any environmental impacts there are minimal. And yeah, that will yet to be determined, here in the near future. So, all right, anyone else? Questions, comments?
Mayor Campbell,
Yep, go ahead, John.
I just need clarification on the additional 40 feet we requested where the vehicles are actually parking. Has that been denied or accepted?
Thank you through the mayor. That has been accepted. So if you look at that map on page 12, you'll see where the easement is called out, and then there's a roughed in
Right.
line.
So that the dash line,
Yeah, that's the other side of the dash line. The dash line, I think, is supposed to represent the 20 feet mark. And so it'd be a 40 feet from that easement.
yeah,
And I'm guessing because of what we went through for the tidelands and that it would be a new lease, we would have a survey done to
Survey, yeah.
confirm that.
no, I get that. But I just wanted to make sure that was included. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that was the premise of this whole deal, is to make sure originally they had agreed to that, the original easement strip, but in further discussions, you guys remember, it just wasn't going to be enough. So now with this additional amount of easement, then we should be good to go to actually have a right of way through there and a place to get cars parked out of the right of way.
Right. That's mainly what I was looking to. So, and of course, then we'd have that center piece there where the motorhome sets and that low spot there.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, I too have many issues with this, but we've been working on this the entire time I've been on the council. And I think in the best interest of moving on, I think we need to do that. And to maybe help answer Jack's question, I have a map program available on my phone here. And there is a piece of state Alaska Mental Health and Trust Authority land beyond that, but it doesn't belong to DNR. And the only piece of property owned by DNR is the one in question. So the answer really is no, there isn't another piece.
The reason I asked that question is, you don't want to put good money on top of bad.
No.
And by the time you remove the existing facility dock and that, and then take on all the environmental issues. It may be in our best interest if there was property. I'm not saying there is, but if there was a place that would lend itself to a new dock system and not have to, and we'd have our own lease, we wouldn't have to try to go through that's a thought that
I get you.
I don't have an answer yet, so.
Yeah, and
I think it's worth looking into. That's all I'm saying.
Yep, no, totally understood on that. Heidi, so when you go back to DNR, assuming we give you the approval here shortly to go back and so basically there was an appeal had to be filed by the 28th, correct? To if we were gonna appeal the DNR's decision, which I don't think we're doing. We're basically giving some sort of concurrence. Yes, okay, lease them the 2.7, and now we want to talk to you. That is their reduced footprint, and now we want to talk to you about what you're offering, you know, the piece that is now in question for us. And then that's where negotiations would begin. And we, you know, again, we may not get to a signed lease. This whole thing may fall apart in negotiations. Is that correct? What I'm for the process?
Correct, Mr. Mayor. So it would start with us amending that lease application to show the intent of the city of Seldovia is still, or the desire is still to lease that portion of the property. And then from there, we'll continue discussion with DOT about how we can clean up the area. We would have to probably have a survey, an appraisal. We can talk to DNR about an environmental study. And as we have these pieces solved, that information will continue to come back to council for your guys' awareness. And then in the end, ultimately, it'll be up to council whether you guys want to enter into that lease or not. And of course, what the annual fee is going to be. I mean, there's still a lot of pieces left to work out, but the first step is to amend that application for the reduced size.
Okay, yep, thank you. And you guys remember the one big thing was that the sticking point last time was, you know, not only the cleanup, but moving that line. We weren't sure if they would do it. They've come back. They said, yes, we're willing to work with you guys, move the line. That still meets their needs. Looks like our needs could be met now geographically with the amount of space that we need. So I'm definitely in favor of you know, moving forward in the negotiating process, amending our lease application, and at least keeping the ball rolling here. So we're not dead in the water here. And then, you know, if we have to get to a point where we're exploring other alternatives, then that's what it is. So we definitely still have some time, but yeah, we want to get this rolling so we can actually enter into negotiations and see how this is going to go here over the next 6 months. Anybody have any objections to that? Okay. Liz, anyone from the public wish to weigh in on the Jackaloff Uplands lease application?
No, we don't have any members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay. Well, unless there's an objection, then I'd like to go ahead and direct the city manager to move forward with the amended lease application. So we keep that ball rolling. Then the other side can go ahead and finish out on the 28th. If nobody else files an appeal, they can move forward with their piece, and then we'll just see how the cards fall here on our side. You good with that, Heidi?
Can I get that in a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Okay. All right. Who wants to offer up a motion to direct the city manager to move forward with the amended lease application?
Mayor Campbell,
Yep. Go ahead, John.
I'd like to make a motion to direct the city manager to move forward with the lease application as discussed.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by John to direct the city manager to move forward with the amended lease application for the Uplands lease We have a second by member Keithley. Any further discussion before we vote on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Oh,
Rojas.
And I'll be stepping out now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Vivian.
You bet.
Kennedy
Aye.
and Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative, 1 absent. And that is to direct the city manager to continue to work with the DNR and submit the amended lease application for the Jackaloff Bay Uplands lease. Heidi, you good with that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Fantastic. All right, that concludes all of our legislative action tonight. And we'll just keep plowing through this and get it knocked out with your city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is page 28 of the laydown. Few recent developments and updates. One being that as of Friday, Jared Patterson is no longer with APIA as our local BPSO. The position will be posted. They were planning on posting it today. I haven't seen it yet. But I have heard that there's already interest both locally and throughout the BPSO department of individuals who are interested in filling that position. So it doesn't sound like it will be empty long or that it will be hard to fill. Community Change Grant, as we've discussed a few times, and then of course as part of the CIP, the city of Seldovia in partnership with the Seldovia Chamber of Commerce submitted a $17 million community change grant last week before the November 21st deadline. That project includes the 6 components, and we keep hearing that there's a good chance of receiving it, though I'm trying not to get my hopes up on that one. Funds are awarded on a rolling basis, so we don't have a deadline for when that award should be announced, but I'll let you know as soon as we hear anything. Water treatment plant update. I mentioned that previously that we have some additional expenses for parts and staff. So we continue to keep an eye on that and could be presenting an ordinance to appropriate funds from the Major Maintenance Repair Fund here at the beginning of the year. Safe Streets for All update. We are a part of the Safe Streets for All planning project with the Kenai Peninsula Borough. There was a focus group meeting last week, the week before, recently, where key stakeholders were able to comment on areas with concern of safety throughout the borough and suggest potential projects to address these concerns. I was able to attend and discuss pedestrian safety in Seldovia, specifically along Jackaloff Bay Road and Main Street. When asked for suggested projects that could address these concerns, we talked about a bike path, or I suggested a bike path to Jackaloff to Seldovia, as well as updated sidewalks along Main Street and that alternative transportation pathway along the harbor waterfront. This is a big plan, so that was a small input from this side of the bay. Definitely a lot of focus for road safety in Homer and along the highway. So kind of cool to hear about. There will be another virtual meeting held with the Seldovia community at the beginning of December to discuss this plan. City Clerk Diamond has a little more details.
We were talking about having a work session prior to the December 16th meeting.
Okay.
If that is okay with the council, it would be a joint meeting between the council and the planning commission.
Okay, so looking at a work session prior to the December 16th meeting, and we can touch base with all of you about that with the borough for that plan. Seldovia Safe Roads material. So that RFP was awarded to Hopkins Brothers at the last council meeting. Since then, we've had a lot of material moving through the community. A few roads have already been addressed, and new material has been placed. Large part thanks to Councilmember Barber for helping out with that. They've been able to address Cedar Street, Kachemak Street, that's temporary until an inlet can be installed. Spillum and Block Street, Main Street by the boat storage yards, Iliamna, and Inlet Street. Additionally, some material was placed on the harbor parking lot and the lots above boat ramps. but we're gonna pause there in order to let everything settle. It's starting to freeze. We want it to get dry before we start plowing and grading on top of those areas. Some of the rest of the material was delivered down by the value added building and by the bottom of the road going up to the water treatment plant so that we can, or it will be if it hasn't yet, so that we can put some material down on that road as well, because it really needs it. So we've been able to address a lot in a very short period of time, and it's been very exciting to see. I'm really appreciative of everybody who's been helping with that. Seldovia Planning Commission application to rezone. I wanted to let you guys know that this is still in the background. We needed the Seldovia Planning Commission to close out the application to rezone. So a resolution was on their agenda for last Wednesday to deny that application based on the council having not approved the ordinance. They did not adopt the ordinance to amend that rezoning. And part of that discussion with Chair Sweet and myself and City Clerk Diamond before the meeting was if there were any additional steps that the city could take or that the commission could take to help address the holes and deficiencies in the application. The Seldovia City Council had talked about how number 7, what being in the best interest of the public, wasn't really addressed. And speaking with legal, that was acceptable for the Planning Commission to reopen that topic and try to address that missing criteria, and then send it back to the council and ask for council reconsideration with the new information on that ordinance, as well as for some findings of fact based on some findings of fact for your determination in order to close out that application one way or another. So that will be an upcoming discussion on the December 4th. I believe it is. Yep, December 4th, Planning Commission meeting. And depending on how that goes, because the Planning Commission was in favor of that, in support of that, it may come back to council and there will be a request to reconsider. Employment vacancies. Tommy Bowling is no longer with the city of Seldovia and the public works position has been reposted. Also, David Botero has signed on as a temporary part-time on-call fill-in snow removal. So basically he'll show up when it snows. And any other projects requiring heavy equipment operations, if that's his passion. David is a certified heavy equipment operator and has experience operating older grader equipment for snow removal over the last year. He was also able to attend the employee grader training with NIT when they were here November 4th through 8th. That was Amanda Miller and David Botero all week. It was a fantastic training. It included the bookwork, safety checks, inspections, and time operating the city equipment. Both operators received excellent remarks from the instructor, who said, "We have a very solid team," and told David and Amanda that they were doing better than 90% of the operators he initially works with. So he was very impressed with them. And it was really neat to see. Quick septic lift station update. It keeps rearing its head and then it settles back down. There was a little hiccup also during the week of the operators training where it wasn't pumping officially, but it's back to functioning correctly. Just a reminder that the contract for that project was signed and that we did receive the approval to construct and the parts are on order. So now it's just a matter of time when we receive the parts and the job can begin. Still looking at spring. 2024 2% sales tax. We received the second and third quarter reporting for the Kenai Peninsula Borough and Alaska Remote Sellers Sales Tax Commission with a 5% adjustment for early KPV payments and less the greater payment of $51,537.07. City administration was able to transfer $39,824.82 to the AMLIP account designated for the 2% funding. The total of that account is now $128,713.64. And we are predicting that there will be enough funds received next year to pay off the rest of the greater lease. I put on here the naming of the bridge. This is something that was discussed back in the late spring, early summer, and was put on hold to see how elections went. It's something that needs to go to our representative as a resolution from the city if they would like to see that bridge renamed. The interest from the community was to see it named after Frankie Castrovirov. If that's something that the city council would still desire to discuss or to have a resolution brought up to send to our representative, please let me know, and we can put that back on the agenda. Something that we typically have this time of year is the city council priority retreat. The city council set it up last year that there were 3 main priorities identified that have overarching ongoing activities and plans that are discussed and determined throughout the year. Those being improved city finances, the CIP, which you just updated, and community collaborations and partnerships. So all those things are all still ongoing. Does the city council want to see these priorities remain in place for 2025? Is there a need for discussion or to determine additional priorities? I would love to have your feedback. And then lastly, just another reminder that AML local government conference is coming up December 9th through the 13th in Anchorage. We have Maggie and Councilmember Langbart and Councilmember Barber set up to attend the newly elected officials training. Councilmember Keithley and Councilmember Payton are going to attend the AML conference from the 11th to the 13th. And Mayor Campbell, we're hoping will be able to attend the mayor's conference on Tuesday, December 10th. So please let us know if that won't work for any of you. I think registration has occurred and plans for travel are being made, but definitely let us know if anything changes. And I'm open for watching everything else.
All right, that's everything for you, Heidi. I think we're starting to lose our bandwidth here. Okay. All right, thank you. Couple additional items. Item O, informational items not requiring action. Seldovia City Office will be closed November 28th and 29th in the observance of Thanksgiving. The December 9th regular council meeting will be postponed, as we said, until December 16th. City administration and members of the city council will be attending the AML government conference during the week of December 9th, as we just said, and that may have an impact on staff availability during the week of December 9th. So there may be some periods of closures in the city office the week of December 9th. Item P, executive session, we have none. Item Q, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Langbart.
No comment.
Okay, Barber.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, Rojas. Oh, she's gone. Sorry. Kennedy.
A couple comments. Willie, I appreciate your attendance tonight. Looking forward to us being able to have some open dialogue down the road. And welcome aboard to the peninsula again, the borough. And then I got just one thing. I didn't want it to hold up the vote tonight. You know, I'd like to know what our plan is, the council's plan is to retain or dispose of the equipment they plan to replace down the road. And I get there are special circumstances. We don't have to relive that. I think what our plan is, we'll be able to backhoe if we are fortunate enough to replace it, and that kind of thing. I don't you know, and as you know, I'm just not crazy about growing our fleet and maintaining double pieces of equipment when we get a new one. So maybe that's a good topic for discussion somewhere. Maybe a shop or something. And then the other question I have is, we were talking about the food storage today. I'd like to see something, maybe some discussion about fuel storage. Okay, I know originally, I'd like to see the city. I know they're using less than half of that fuel storage. And I'd like to see the city have the option to be able to store fuel there for emergencies. For both the community and the city government itself in that facility. I don't know how that would work, but just questions. And that's all I got for now. Good job tonight, guys. A lot of hard work in there. As always, I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yep.
Keith Lee.
No comment.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, for me, thanks everyone. Willie, again, thanks for coming tonight. And again, look forward to future discussions here as we start moving deeper into the political arena and the legislature gets back into session and all kinds of good stuff over the winter, and you guys start getting into your good stuff here this winter. So I'm sure there'll be much more to come. Our next meeting will be held on Monday, December 16th, 2024. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second
I'll
it.
second that.
All right, motion to adjourn by Langbard, second by John there. So any objections? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it tonight, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Down tonight.
I'm gonna spend the night, that's meetings tomorrow.